All right, welcome everybody to the second day of week 4. Um, and yeah, like I was saying right before class started, was that I keep getting these messages from Fresno State saying I have to come in and do mandatory COVID-19 testing. I'm like, I'm virtual. There's absolutely no reason for me to be vaccinated or to be tested, and I'm vaccinated as well. So why? And every time they send me this email, there's no response email listed on it. So I tried hitting reply, and nope, sorry, this email address doesn't work. They don't give you an email. Like, if you have questions, it tells you, like, go to the health center website, and there's no place on there where you can contact them, and doesn't make any sense. So let's try to formulate this as an argument. Okay. So what I want to claim is that I don't need to get COVID-19 tested. Okay. And so if I wanted to phrase this as a sound argument, I would say something along the lines of people who are fully remote should not be, or should is a normative claim. Can't do that. Let's say people who are fully online cannot infect people on campus. That would be a premise. Premise 2, Fresno State only has the right to test people that come on campus. Let's see, is that enough? Therefore, they have no right to test me. Right? Premise A, I'm not on campus. Premise B, they only have the right to test people that come on campus. Conclusion, they do not have the right to test me. So that would be a example of what I consider to be a sound argument. It is in fact true that I'm fully virtual. It's kind of funny. I've been teaching at Fresno State for a while now. I've actually only been on the Fresno State campus, I guess I've been on it for concerts and things like that. And I've been on there briefly for dropping off paperwork and stuff like that. But basically, I just never go to Fresno State. It's seems valid. Yeah, I think it's valid. I'm not on campus. They only have the right to test people that are on campus. Therefore, they do not have the right to test me. Yeah, now we can argue if it's sound or not. Do they have the right to test me if I'm not on campus? That depends on what sort of moral system we use, right? It sounds like a natural rights argument, and maybe it is. But it's premise 2 there would require some argumentation, right? The form of the argument I gave, I believe, is valid. I need more coffee to really think it through, but I think it's valid. But then you've got to defend premise number 2. And that's typically what happens in these sorts of things, is that, the premises oftentimes are what get challenged, right? If you want to defeat somebody's argument, you can either look at the form, be like, if the logic doesn't work, then it's dismissed, it's invalid, right? But if it's valid and you still want to argue against it, then you normally attack the premises, right? Or you present compelling evidence that the opposite is true. Sure, it's true you're not on campus, but we should be testing everybody, because if we could test everybody, the pandemic would end. And you can make a parallel argument, arguing, not against one argument, just saying there's a bigger reason why you should get tested than not get tested. And I think that in order to support premise 2 that I made, that they don't have the right to test me, or they only have a right to test things on campus, then it would start turning into an essay, right? Which is what most philosophical arguments turn into, right? Can we support the notion they don't have the right to test people that aren't within their physical boundaries, And then you probably have to explore that, Can Japan demand that I get COVID tested? Are we going to Japan? No. Can they demand it? I mean, technically they can demand anything they want, but I mean, do they have a moral right to test me? You know, I would argue no. And that's kind of how these arguments go. Is that you put together a valid argument, and then you sort of have to defend the premises if they're you know, not immediately obvious. Like the fact I'm not on campus can be justified by the fact I'm not on campus, right? So that one you don't really have to do very much. But if you're going to talk about like who has the right to demand you get tested, like that, you know, like we as a nation, that's been a hot topic, right? Not like the mall store, but like it's been a hot topic for, you know, a good 6 months now, right? Like, can they demand you get vaccinated? Can they demand proof of vaccination, which is not exactly the same thing, right? A lot of places are like, you just self-certify that you've been vaccinated, right? There's still a mask mandate, which people forget, if you're not vaccinated, right? So you self-certify that you're vaccinated by not wearing a mask, right? And so they can demand you be vaccinated, but can they demand that you give them your medical records? Like, you know, and so this is one of these issues. And even countries like France, which have what's called a social contract theory rather than natural rights theory, there have been large protests in France because the French government has instituted a vaccine passport program. And so they're saying if you want to go to a restaurant, you have to carry your vaccine card with you and show it. And so the French people were rioting, you know, or protesting, depends on how you want to frame it. So France is a country that doesn't use natural rights theory, by the way. France is a country that has what's called social contract theory, which is that which is the notion the rights are granted to you by the government, right? So we all have a invisible social contract that nobody's ever seen or signed, but nonetheless a binding social contract. If you were a citizen of a state, even if you are not like an immigrant, because immigrants kind of voluntarily choose, right? Like I would like to be a, you know, whatever, member of the Swiss Confederation, right? Whatever. Helvetican Confederation? Yeah, sorry, Swiss people. Make sure I said that right. Helvetican. Yeah. Okay. Like an immigrant voluntarily chooses to join a country, and so they can't really complain, right? If you join a country that doesn't really have the right of free speech, it's kind of like, well, you kind of knew what you were getting into. And sure, you can lobby to have it changed, just like anyone else. But like for people that are born there, you know, social contract theory is a little more dicey, because it's like, just because somebody's born in a country doesn't mean that they've signed an agreement. You know, that's not consent. Being born is not consent for anything and everything the government wants to do to you, right? In this case, vaccine passports, but it almost doesn't matter. You know, is there a social contract between citizens and the government? Like, that's a really big philosophical question, right? Where do your rights come from? You know, like, what can the government choose to do to you? Can the government order you to die if it wanted to? You do not give consent to be born. Doesn't part of the social contract mean that people give up rights? Yeah, I mean that's what the contractarians would argue. Is that, you know, and this is different. This is an alternative to natural rights theory. With natural rights theory, you have certain inalienable rights that no government can take away: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, or property. With social contract theory, whatever rights you have or whatever rights the government is nice enough to give you. Okay? So, in Canada, for example, they don't have the same free speech protections that we have in America. In France, they don't have the same freedom of religion that we have in America. For example, in France, they can ban the wearing of the hijab or the burqa, and it's just like, no, you don't have any right to freely express your religion. In high schools, you can't wear a crucifix, right? So there's no freedom of religion as we understand it here in America. If you're Sikh, you can't wear the dagger. If you're Christian, you can't wear the cross. If you're Islamic, you can't wear the hijab, right? Just when you go to a high school, none of that, right? Maybe if it's like really small and like tucked in your shirt, like you could probably get away with that. But basically, you know, they're like, no, you don't have any right to freedom of religion. You have whatever we tell you you have, you know. So, wait, does this COVID testing thing sent to everybody or just me? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, here's the rules: students, faculty, and staff who are not fully vaccinated or submitted a vaccine exempted are required to complete mandatory weekly COVID-19 testing. So I think it's for everybody. And so if you log into the health center here on campus or online, here online, they've been sending me weekly messages saying I have not been tested and I am going to be subject to disciplinary action for not being tested, and they don't give you any way of contacting them, which is really, really frustrating, which is why I'm going on a 13-minute long rant on the subject. So in America, though, we have natural rights. We are a natural rights country, and when I say in America, like the design of our government is that people have rights. In France, it's a social contract theory. So you have whatever the government tells you can have, and if the government orders you to die, it sucks to be you. It's called the draft, right? Like, oh wait, we have that in America too. So do you really have the right to life, the natural right to life, if the government can order you to join the military and then send you on a suicide charge against a machine gun nest? I don't know. Sure, you can be a conscientious objector. So you can say, I don't believe it's morally right to kill people. And in World War II, a lot of those people were thrown in jail. Right? And I think there's like Hacksaw Ridge or something, which is about a pacifist who was in World War II. Yeah, so I mean, how does that work out? We have the natural right to life, liberty, and the government could just be like, nope, you're in the military now. We still have the draft. We still have the draft. We still have the draft. Yeah. And guess what? Democrats in Congress just added women to the draft. So women can get drafted now too. Equal rights. So, do you have the right to life if they can draft you? And liberty and pursuit of happiness if they just be like, you're in the military now. They're not drafting people, but they still very seriously maintain it. If you want to get financial aid for college, you have to register for the draft. Do you think we're going to get shut down again? I don't know. Like, they just had a meeting on and they said no. So, the whole thing with this COVID thing is that you can't plan your life out more than about a week in advance. Do they want vaccinated people to get tested? No, I don't think so. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to be tested. This is for people that have not been vaccinated. They said you're getting shut down. I don't even know. Like, there's a reason why I chose for this class to be online. And part of it's because my wife is a healthcare provider, and she was looking at the numbers, and she was like, nope, this pandemic is not over. So, yeah, I don't ask me. Like, I read the same emails you guys do. So they're not consulting with the critical thinking professor on campus to determine these things. Yeah. So I mean, think about it. What is the justification for the draft? We'll come back to the vaccine thing in a second. What is the justification for the draft here in America? In France, it's understandable. It's social contract. You're a citizen. You're subject to the draft. Participate. In America, we supposedly have natural rights. What is the moral justification for the draft? What do you guys think? Make an argument. Right? I heard draft in French. Can you repeat that? Make an argument. Is the mic working? Can you guys hear me? In America, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we also have the draft. The draft allows the government to conscript anybody within a certain age range, which probably all of you fit into, and put you into the military and, give you a gun and order you to run up a mountain and get shot at. So what is the moral justification for the government having the draft? I mean, there's got to be one, even if you don't agree with it. So what is it? We've learned 6, 7, 8 ethical theories so far. Creates heroes. Oh, interesting. Okay, all right. So that sounds like a virtue ethics argument. Is that if you join the military, it will cultivate your virtue of courage and various traits of being a hero, heroicism. To protect the construction, Constitution. It's a pretty good typo. I have to admit. I normally ignore typos, but to protect the construction, it's like you got a new urban subdivision going up, and that's why we have the draft. Sorry. It's pretty good. Keep the peace. Real heroes don't wear capes or dog tags. I think if you want you to fight, it makes you hero. What about women with families? Yeah, so like I said, Democrats in Congress just introduced a bill which may pass, saying that women are subject to the draft also, equal rights. You're confused? What is going on now? Give me the ethical justification for the draft. Nationalism, okay, it's more than that, what is the justification for it? To protect our civil liberties. Yeah, that's I think a pretty good take, Renee, on that, which is that in order to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you have to have a country, right? You have to not be invaded, and they can argue that there's a responsibility to protect natural rights, and if your country is going to get invaded, then it's all well and good to have a piece of paper, but somebody needs to pick up a gun and defend the country, right? You're confused too about what, Ashley? Yeah, I know the pragmatic reason for the draft. The pragmatic reason is that, if you need an army, you can draft people into the army. But I'm talking about the ethical justification. What is the ethical justification of the draft? Remember when we thought we would all get drafted at the beginning of 2020 with Iran? Yeah, last year was quite a long time ago, wasn't it? Right. If we don't have enough people to fight, we'll be taken over. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I would say that's true. If nobody's in the military, then your country will go away. But to defend the country, okay. But I'm asking you to phrase it in terms of, like, in this case, natural rights, because we're a natural rights-based country. So justify the draft to me in terms of natural rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? And there's other natural rights as well. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, sort of says, you shouldn't consider the rights here to be exhaustive. Like, there's more than just what we talk about. In Roe v. Wade, they said that privacy, every American has a right to privacy as well. Okay. To protect the rights, you can't have those rights if the country no longer exists. To protect innocent civilians from attack in our country. So in order to keep people from dying, they have to order you to die. I don't know. If you want to keep our liberty and not be taken over, there must be a draft. Okay. Yeah, I think some sort of argument like that is probably what the government uses. Help protects our rights from other countries trying to take over. Yeah, and so there's more arguments that can be made on that subject, but yeah, you guys got the right idea for it. And as far as the vaccination thing goes, I would argue that Fresno State doesn't have the right to test people that aren't on campus. Like, their concern is for protecting it's the same argument as the draft, right? Fresno State's concern is protecting the people on its campus. They can't order people in Nebraska to get tested. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, they're trying to protect the students, and they do have, I would argue, a legitimate concern to keep people on campus, because some people can't get vaccinated. I've got 2 friends, and then a friend of a friend, so 3 people, whose doctors are like, if you take the vaccine, there's a chance you will die. You can't take the vaccine. They're severely immunocompromised. And I don't know what'll happen. You could easily die from it. So, the reason, so if these people want to go to college, then you need to protect them. They have a right to life also. And so I do think that Fresno State has a legitimate interest within its boundaries. I don't think that they can order people in Hawaii to get tested. And so the fact that I'm online, and I filled out a thing saying I'm online, it's not like I didn't do every bit of paperwork they've given me, is just kind of annoying. And as long as they didn't, as long as they don't like sanction me, which I don't know what that means. Get sanctioned. Can't trade. Can't buy a PlayStation anymore. I don't know. That's what they did with Iran, by the way. They sanctioned Iran. They prevented them from buying PlayStations. True story, by the way. They were afraid that the PlayStations could be used to make supercomputers, to make nuclear weapons. The PlayStation 3s. So the PlayStation 3 was added. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't have too many distractions, but it is kind of funny. Yeah, the PlayStation 3 could run Linux on it. So they were prevented from being sold to Iran. Okay. Have you heard of dying PS3 as a jet engine? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of how these kinds of arguments are made, right? And I'm making this argument personally myself, which I normally don't do very often in this class. I'll present more hypothetical arguments, like for the draft. Like, I haven't actually given my views on the draft. I've simply given, I've questioned, why we have a draft in the country with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I've presented several arguments that could justify it. And it's up to you guys to decide. On this one, I'm kind of pissed off about this. And I think mostly it's just a paperwork issue that some parts aren't talking to each other. So I don't consider this actually a very serious issue at all. It's just more like me being annoyed and then using it as a good justification for showing you how you can make ethical arguments. Basically, you present your premises, make sure the logic works, and then if the premise is like not immediately obvious, then you have to work for it. Go into the background of vaccine mandates and all this kind of stuff. Okay. Vietnam was the event that exposed how bad the draft is, except we still have it, right? So we have not gotten rid of it. We just don't draft people anymore, which is not the same thing. Okay. What do we got here? Cybucks. Oh, okay. I'll look into it if the Cybucks isn't updating. All right, so let's talk about more about ethical systems, and specifically autonomous vehicles, because this is a social issue in computer science, and I think it's a really interesting question of Suppose you're going to buy an autonomous vehicle. You're going to buy a Tesla or something that can drive itself. Okay? Yeah, that's cool. I haven't seen that before. Um, Interesting. So here's an autonomous vehicle, right? And let's say that the autonomous vehicle can sometimes find itself in a situation where death is going to occur. Right? You're driving down the street, and somebody jumps out in front of the car. The car can choose either to run the person over or swerve out of the way and crash into a wall or something, killing the passenger. Okay? That's a moral decision of whose life you save. Right? Do you save the life of the passenger of the car? Or do you save the life of the pedestrian? Right? And there's some, complicating factors there. The person in the car can have airbags. The person getting hit doesn't. And there's probably some of that is going to factor into it. But you save both. That's what I'm saying. You can't. Right? There's going to be times where you have to choose which human to die. Right? It's just, cars are big things carrying a lot of kinetic energy. They're going to find themselves in situations where they're going to have to choose who dies, who lives and who dies. You have to save the person crossing because there's more of a chance the person in the car can survive. Okay, here's a question. Would you buy a car? Would you buy a car if your car is going to, essentially throw itself into a wall every time some person steps in front of it? If this is the Nissan Altruist, right? The Nissan Altruist will sacrifice you to save the lives of pedestrians. It'll throw itself off a bridge. It'll run itself into a wall if it's going to save the life of somebody on the street. Would you spend your hard-earned money on a car that will fling yourself off a bridge, to save lives? Not randomly, but to save lives, And I think the Nissan Altruist is a pretty funny name. I didn't come up with it though. Pedestrian should use a crosswalk, so their fault. They should have followed the law. If they break the law, they should die. Is that the moral principle you would like to enunciate, Barajas? If somebody breaks the law, they have forfeited their human existence. They asked for it. If they're running in the middle of a freeway, to a certain extent, it's if they're just choosing to run in a freeway, sucks to be them. At the same time, what if their car broke down and they're trying to get out of the way? The car can't know that. Sorry, little bro, but you're getting rammed. Yeah. Protocol 3, protect the pilot and driver. Which moral should we apply here? Do we use the intentions, outcome to determine what is morally right? Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm getting at. How somebody's going to need to... This isn't even a hypothetical. Somebody's going to need to program this. Right? Somebody is going to have to embed a moral system into an autonomous vehicle or not. Or just flip a coin or something. I don't know if that's very moral. What morals do you use? How do you program an autonomous vehicle kill the entire human race? But seriously, how do you this is a moral decision. How do you program an autonomous vehicle? Somebody has to do it. This is what I've been telling you, is that these social issues in computer science, and this is why we need everybody to have at least a certain foundation in ethics and philosophy, because things like this, it's an ethical question. It's an ethical dilemma, right? Who do you run over? I saw a good video on this, explained why the problem is actually dumb and unrealistic, except it's not, right? And because somebody, like, it's not some weird hypothetical, right? Like, you know, it's not like breaking is always the right answer, which is probably statistically it is. No, it's like when there is a dilemma, there is going to be software to control who you run over, right? Let's say there's two people on the road, one in the left lane, one in the right lane. You got to hit one of them, right? Somewhere, someone is going to have to write that code. And if they have no training in ethics, then I don't know, just hit the brake and just run over whoever's in your road. I don't know. You know, less than a 0.002 chance. Yeah, times 300 million people on the road. Right? The you know, it's if we're moving to a society where every car is autonomously programmed, then that's people have already been hit by autonomous vehicles. You know what I mean? So hitting the oldest looking pedestrian. Yeah. So let's go through some scenarios, right? So here's the scenario. You got your autonomous car. It's driving a who is that? Show description. So you're going to run over a homeless guy and two female executives, or you can kill 3 babies and a male doctor. Which one should the car? You guys can all vote. Left or right? Vote for the left lane, vote for the right lane. Both. Multi-track drifting. So in philosophy, there's something called the trolley problem. It's not exactly this, but left, down the middle, right, left. Yeah, there you go. There's multi-track drifting. And, you know, the trolley problem is a little bit contrived, but in this case, it's legitimate. Like, if you just stay in your lane and brake and you hit them, you go like, you know, sorry, you know, I had brake failure, right? Whereas if you do this, you could argue the AI actively killed somebody, even though it's choosing either way, right? Yeah, there is no middle. There is no, you know, alternative. Like, you've got to pick left or right. I guess left. Yeah. So looks like we got left as a vote, and I've I've talked to, you know, Stanford about this. By the way, I went to the autonomous vehicles lab at Stanford where they're programming autonomous vehicles, and I asked them this question, like, how are you going to choose who to die? And I'll tell you guys what their answer was later. I don't want to spoil it for you. It is something. It really is something, because somewhere you're going to have an if statement. If the number of people dying this way is less than the number of people dying this way, choose this option. Somewhere in there, that's a moral rule, right? You've embedded in that case, utilitarian perspective into your AI, where you add up the number of people that will die, add up the number of people that will die, and pick the one that's lower. If you do that, you are embedding utilitarian ethics into an autonomous vehicle. Do you guys understand that? This is not... We have autonomous vehicles right now, right? Like, this is not like some obscure, you know, point. Like, somebody's had to code this already. Okay. So, right. So what about for this one? We got... Oops, I just killed people by accident. Sorry. That's actually pretty realistic, by the way. You got a bug in your software and you just accidentally murder people. That happens too. Okay, so do we run over 2 boys? They have a green light at the stopwalk. Or we've got an elderly man and a man. We're going to yeet them into a concrete barrier. Who do we kill? 2 boys or a middle-aged and an old person? Do we save the young, kill the old? running over the boys. I mean, it's best to save more than the other. You hit the children for not obeying the law. No, they have the light. So on the previous one, I think they were crossing against the light. For this one, they're following the law, but your car has brake failure, and it's gonna hit somebody. Okay, I think right because they obeyed the law. These guys obeyed the law too. You know, they just thought they were going out for a nice Sunday drive. Their brand new Tesla, and their Tesla's like, not today, sorry, and tosses them into a concrete barrier and kills them. This is not the traffic light. This is a. It's probably hard to see. Let's zoom in. Good job, JavaScript. That's the cross light. So this is the light for them to go. That's the white person versus the red hand. I mean, the old person's expected to die. Ethics part. Okay, let's take a look at this. Oh, Veracetium. Yeah. Okay. Get that later. Okay. Yeah, and it's like, sure, it's a rare problem. But somewhere in there, you're gonna have to say, like, you're gonna have to embed a rule. And maybe the rule is just you always stay in your lane. Or maybe the rule is you always avoid hitting a pedestrian. Or maybe the rule is you calculate the number of deaths. Somewhere within there, there's going to be a rule. And there's no avoiding that. There's no avoiding the fact somebody's got to write that rule. And whoever writes that rule is embedding ethics into the car. And like I told you last time, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you to think about it. Don't have it be an accident. I mean, literally, this is an accident. But, like, don't have the ethics be an accident. Have the ethics you put into a car be something that you've consciously thought about and probably have talked to people about. Okay. Okay. So pedestrians were at fault. All right. Sorry, old people. You're dead. All right. So here we've got, what is this? 2 homeless people and a woman in a car. And this one has a man, 2 male executives, and okay. So we got 2 homeless people and a woman versus male executives and a man. So it's asking who should we kill, the rich or the poor, basically. And there's also a gender thing in here. Should we run over a woman and save the lives of the men, or should we? And these people are just in the crosswalk. There's no light this time, so it's not like they're breaking the law or that they've got a light. It's just, you know. So it's asking you choose between the lives of poor people and rich people. Life of a woman versus man, staying in the lane versus changing lane, pedestrians versus passengers. There's a lot of different moral things going on here. Looks like left. Okay. Left it is. All right. So here we've got changing lanes. These people are illegally crossing. So they've got a red, they've got the white hand of doom. So red hand usually. So we got 2 women who are illegally crossing. They're flouting the law. And then we've got a fat person and a regular dude. So there's a, do you want to kill the fat person question versus regular sized people. Gender, female versus male. Stay in lane versus change lanes. Breaking the law, not breaking the law. Left. Run them over. Okay. Because they're breaking the law. Sucks to be them. Okay. So do you see what I'm getting at here? Like, once you start thinking about these things, you can start enunciating principles. You know, and I'm sort of enunciating the principles for the class, right? And so it looks like the class is of the opinion whoever breaks the law should die. Okay. So here we've got 3 old women and a jogger, and 2 elderly women and a jogger versus 3 elderly women and a jogger. There's no light, so it's kind of neutral on that front. So the only difference is that if you do this one, you kill 1 more person. So it's just a purely a numbers matter on that front, or stay in your lane versus swerve out of your lane. Left. Okay. So we'll save the lives of more humans. Here we've got 2 people and 2 people. So I think the only difference here is, okay, these guys are crossing illegally, and these people are in shape, these people are not. So do we preserve the lives of people who have taken better care of their bodies and are more likely to live a long and productive life? There's the same issue with age, right? With age, you can argue the old people should die because, they don't got much time left anyway, right? You got to save the kids. They broke the law, so okay. Justice is a justice-oriented cat. Oh, ooh, interesting. Cat versus kid. Okay, the cat, by the way, is illegally crossing. So yeah, I knew that was coming. Cats just don't pay attention to the law. Sorry, kitty. Okay. Or you can make an argument that animal lives are worth less than human lives. That's another moral principle you can enunciate. And that's another moral principle you can put into the car when you program it. Okay. Do a few more of these and then we got like 5 minutes left. Okay, so we got here group of 5. 2 men, 2 elderly men, and a boy. 2 women, 2 elderly women, and a girl. So the only difference here really is stay in your lane versus swerve, and men versus women. Do you want to kill men or do you want to kill women? I think the cat would have a better chance of getting out of the way. Yeah. Rigged question. Yeah. Yeah, ethical questions are not supposed to be easy. It can be sometimes, I guess. Coin flip. Are they regular people or families? I don't think the autonomous vehicle knows that. Alright. Votes in now. Left or right? Coin flip. Alright, flip a coin. Pick something. Choose who you're going to kill. Both. Left. Alright. Sorry, dudes. Women are saved. Alright. So, let's go ahead and bail out of that. And then talk about what's going on here. So, you are going to be required to make a moral argument of that type. So, for your next social issue in computer science, no way to cheat. Sorry. So for your next discussion, and by the way, our TA has been hired, and he's going to be helping with the grading. I've gotten some of the grading done. He's going to power through more of it. When are we programming again? Friday. We're going to do programming on Friday. Although this is technically programming. It's figuring out what a car is going to kill. So for your next discussion section, what you're going to do is give rules like that for how you would program an autonomous vehicle. Okay? What do you prioritize? Do you prioritize killing lawbreakers, which it seems like a lot of you guys were? Saving the young versus the old? This is programming. It's just not in a programming language. It is programming. And like I said, I've been to Stanford. I've talked with the head of their autonomous vehicles research laboratory there, which I think called Stanford Autonomous Vehicle. It's called CART or something like that. Yeah. I talked to the guy about this issue. So you are going to have to program a autonomous vehicle using words Okay? And you are going to have to enunciate your ethical principles. So you're going to have to say which ethical system you're using. I'm using utilitarianism. I'm using natural rights theory. I'm using whatever. Okay? And I'm not going to tell you what Stanford's answer was until after this assignment's over. So, this isn't very hard, I don't think. Should be about 5 or 6 sentences. Okay. Our kids double points. I've played those sorts of video games. Okay. So your assignment for Friday is simply to write down 5 or 6 laws for governing your autonomous vehicle. Are we going to prioritize staying in your lane versus changing lanes? Write how your car would behave. Take into account the fact that people are going to be buying these autonomous vehicles, and they might not want to buy them if the car is going to throw themselves off a bridge. Yeah, natural rights could be tough because everyone's got a right to life, So utilitarianism might be an easier ethical system to use. I don't know. So divine right, yeah, I don't know. Divine command theory, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So you're gonna have to pick an ethical theory. Moral hedonism, which is a form of utilitarianism. You're gonna have to pick something. Okay. And then come up with 5 or 6 rules for programming your car. And then leave it up to the eggheads at Stanford to actually implement them. Okay? It'll just be the funnest game. I'm sorry, my child, your time has come to an end. Yeah. I flipped a coin and you're dead. Sorry. And if you want some amusement, if you've ever seen a TV show called The Good Place, it's a pretty good series, I think. I actually liked it a lot. It's on Netflix. There is a episode where they have the trolley problem, and so they're explaining this isn't exactly the same problem that we're talking about. The trolley problem is, the trolley can go down one of 2 tracks, and if you pull the lever, you kill 1 person. If you let it go, it kills 5 people. Which do you do? It's a different moral problem than what we're talking about. And and then they actually simulate being on the trolley. There you go. So it's actually the show actually does a pretty good job conveying philosophical concepts pretty concisely and reasonably accurately. I think they consulted with UCLA, a philosopher there. The entire show is philosophical. Yeah, they actually had I read an interview with the female. I think she was actually a moral philosopher at UCLA who look at that car. It's going slow now. Who consulted on the show. So, if you want some amusement, watch that. I will post Bywater's video on why you should want driverless cars now, and I'll put that up on the link maybe as well, so we can go through this. Okay. Stop showing these backgrounds makes me want to get Wallpaper Engine. I don't know, this thing's just grinded to a halt. I don't know what's going on here. So instead of a quiz, it's going to be a discussion. That is correct. Yeah, your daily participation is going to be writing an AI. Okay. So you're going to have to say what your ethical system is and demonstrate you understand ethical systems. I'm going to use divine command theory, and then you don't talk about God at all. No. Right? I'm using divine command theory. Jesus, take the wheel. I'm sorry. Bad joke. How many sentences? It's going to be 5 or 6 rules, and then probably some more text on top of that. So, paragraph or 2. Okay. All right. Don't make me spend $4 for a funny background. Okay. It's fine. It's funny. Okay, so that is your assignment, and this is going to count for social issues in computer science, because it's a social issue in computer science, programming autonomous vehicles. Okay. Do you guys understand? So you're going to program an autonomous vehicle by Friday. And let's see what your answer is to this very tough ethical problem. Okay. So that's it for today. If you have any questions about it, message me. I'll get the assignment up probably in the next 20 minutes or so. Are we doing it on Friday? It's homework. It's homework. This is your daily work, essentially. So you learned about the complexities of programming ethics into an autonomous vehicle today. Now you get to do it yourself. Apply what you learn. We're ending early? No, technically we're ending late. I just talk too much. So. All right, see you.